Most people think being alone is a weakness. They fear it, they run from it. But let me tell you something, if you are a woman with no friends, you are not weak. You are powerful beyond measure. You are standing in a space very few can handle, and if you stay the course, the life you build will be stronger than anything built on shallow connections. The empty room. There comes a moment when the room falls silent. No messages, no invitations, no endless chatter, just you. And that moment feels heavier than anything you've ever carried. The walls seem to close in a little tighter. The air feels thicker. You check your phone out of habit, nothing. You check again 5 minutes later, still nothing. And deep down, it hits you. You've been forgotten. Everyone else seems to be moving on, rushing toward their dreams, living their lives, while you sit there, stuck. It's easy to start believing that something is wrong with you, like you're somehow broken or behind. Your mind, desperate for answers, begins weaving painful stories, ugly ones that tell you you're not enough, that you failed, that you're invisible. In the empty room, those stories get louder. The silence becomes a mirror, showing you every insecurity, every fear you've been trying to outrun. And in that moment, it's tempting to give in, to believe the worst about yourself, to collapse under the weight of your own doubts. But listen carefully, that silence you fear so much isn't your enemy. It's a gift most people never receive, or worse, they receive it but are too afraid to open it. That empty room is a blank canvas, untouched and full of potential. When nobody is there to tell you who you are supposed to be, when there are no opinions flooding your mind, when the noise dies down, that's when something rare happens. For the first time in a long time, maybe for the first time ever, you hold the brush. You become the artist of your own future. Every color you choose, every stroke you make, every risk you take, it's all yours. No expectations to meet, no performance to put on, no audience to impress. Just you, your dreams, your choices. This is where real power is born, not in the applause of a crowd, but in the courage it takes to create when nobody is clapping. Most people never sit still long enough to experience this. They panic at the first sign of silence. They reach for their phones, flood their minds with distractions, chase any form of validation to fill the uncomfortable space. But running from the empty room is running from yourself. And you can't build anything real if you're always running. You have to stand there in the uncomfortable stillness and face everything you've been avoiding. You have to meet yourself raw, unfiltered, vulnerable. That's where the transformation happens. That's where the strongest people are made. Not in the spotlight, but in the shadows. Not when they're surrounded by fans, but when they're surrounded by doubt and still choose to believe anyway. Because if you can thrive in the empty room, if you can build strength when no one is watching, if you can love yourself when no one is applauding, if you can keep moving when no one is cheering you on, then you'll be unstoppable when the world finally turns its eyes back toward you. The truth is, most people are only as good as the attention they receive. But when you've been forged in silence, when your worth has been built brick by brick in solitude, you don't just survive. When the crowd disappears, you thrive. You no longer chase validation. You embody it. You no longer beg for a seat at the table. You build your own. You no longer fear being alone. You welcome it because you know the empty room isn't empty at all, it's full of possibility. Yes, the empty room feels lonely at first. It feels like punishment. It feels unfair, but stay a little longer. Sit in the discomfort. Feel the weight of it without trying to escape. Because beyond that first wave of fear, something extraordinary waits for you. A version of yourself that is stronger, wiser, more powerful than you ever imagined. A self that no longer depends on noise to feel alive. A self that no longer crumbles when attention fades. A self that builds, creates, rises regardless of who's watching. So the next time you find yourself in that silence, when the invitations stop, when the messages dry up, when the noise falls away, don't rush to fill it. Don't run. Don't numb. Stay. Stay long enough to hear your own heartbeat again. Stay long enough to remember who you were before the world told you who to be. Stay long enough to pick up the brush and start painting your masterpiece stroke by stroke, mistake by mistake, truth by truth. Because the empty room isn't where you lose yourself. It's where you finally find yourself. And when you understand that, you realize you were never abandoned. You were being prepared. The noise they run to. Most people are terrified of silence because they are terrified of themselves. They'll do anything to avoid it. They drown their days in noise gossip about people who don't even matter, endless parties that blur together, distractions that eat away at their time like termites. They chase loudness, thinking that if the world around them stays busy enough, maybe, just maybe, they won't have to hear the questions they're too scared to answer. They run to chaos like it's a safe house, but deep down, they know it's just a shield. Because silence strips away the armor. It exposes the truth. And for most, the truth is too heavy to carry alone. When you have no friends, no plans, no fake smiles to hide behind, you are forced to confront what's real. You are faced with the one person you can't lie to yourself. Not the polished version you present to the world. Not the watered-down version you mold to fit in. But the raw, untouched, stubbornly honest version of you. The version that knows what you truly want. The version that remembers the dreams you abandoned to be accepted. The version that aches for meaning while your outer world chases approval. And it's not comfortable, it's messy, it's ugly, it's terrifying. But it's also where everything real begins. The noise they run to is a drug, a way to stay numb, a way to delay the moment of reckoning. Because sitting with yourself in silence demands answers. Who are you without the likes, the texts, the invitations? What do you stand for when no one is there to clap for you? What do you truly believe when you're not trying to belong? Most can't handle the weight of those questions. They'd rather stay busy than stay real. They'd rather fill the air with meaningless chatter than fill their soul with uncomfortable truths. But if you're brave enough, you'll see the opportunity hidden in the silence. You'll see that every quiet moment is a chance to rebuild, to reshape, to rise. When the noise fades, when the masks drop, when the fake crowds disappear, you have a choice. You can either panic and rush back into the circus, or you can stay. Stay with the discomfort. Stay with the emptiness. Stay with the questions. Because staying means facing everything you've been avoiding, and facing it means finally breaking free. You'll realize that most friendships you thought you needed were never about connection, they were about distraction. Most parties you thought you enjoyed were never about joy, they were about escaping yourself. Most conversations you clung to were never about growth, they were about staying busy enough to avoid hearing your own doubts. Once you see through the noise, you can never unsee it. You'll start craving silence the way others crave attention. You'll start valuing depth over distraction, purpose over popularity, solitude over superficial validation. And here's the paradox. The moment you stop needing the noise, you become the one people are drawn to. Because realness is rare. Authenticity is magnetic. While they run in circles trying to find themselves through others, you'll already be standing there rooted, grounded, unshakable. You'll stop bending to stay invited. You'll stop shrinking to stay accepted. You'll stop editing yourself just to avoid the loneliness. You'll become someone who doesn't just survive the silence, you'll master it. The world doesn't need more noise. It needs more people who can walk into a crowded room and stay centered. It needs more people who can sit alone with their thoughts and not crumble. It needs more people who are comfortable being seen as different, misunderstood, even forgotten because they know who they are beyond the masks. Silence isn't your enemy. Loneliness isn't your punishment. They're your teachers. They strip away the unnecessary. They tear down the illusions. They bring you face to face with the only person who can change your life, you. And when you finally sit with yourself, no distractions, no filters, no noise, you realize the thing you were running from all along was never the silence. It was your own greatness waiting to be unleashed. The mirror of isolation. Isolation is not punishment. It is a mirror, and it's one of the most honest mirrors you will ever face. It strips away the noise, the distractions, the applause, the comforting nods of approval from others. It leaves you standing bare with no stage, no spotlight, no audience to feed off. It is just you, your thoughts, your fears, your dreams, your doubts. Isolation shows you exactly who you are when nobody is watching, when there's no one to impress, no one to applaud your efforts, no one to validate your existence. It holds up a reflection of the self you can no longer hide from. And in that reflection, you will see everything, the strength you forgot you had, the fears you never truly conquered, the insecurities you buried deep, the dreams you once believed were impossible. Isolation doesn't sugarcoat anything. It doesn't flatter you. It doesn't make excuses for you. It just shows you what's real. And that's exactly where transformation begins. Growth never happens in the crowd. Growth never happens when you're constantly surrounded by approval and applause. In fact, the crowd often delays growth because it gives you just enough comfort to stay the same. True transformation happens in the wilderness, in the silence, in the stillness, in the places where nobody else dares to go. It happens when you are forced to sit with your own demons, your own weaknesses, your own unfulfilled potential. When there is no one left to blame. When there are no distractions left to hide behind. When the excuses you used to lean on sound hollow, even to your own ears. That's when you are faced with the raw truth of who you are and who you could become. Most people fear isolation because they fear what they'll see in that mirror. They fear discovering that they're not as strong as they pretended to be, that they've been living someone else's version of success, that their confidence was borrowed from the opinions of others. But if you can stay with the discomfort, if you can resist the urge to numb it, run from it, drown it out, you'll find something priceless. You'll find the seeds of real strength, real clarity, real purpose. You'll find the pieces of yourself that were buried under layers of expectation and noise. You'll realize that everything you ever needed was never out there in the crowd. It was always locked inside you, waiting for the silence to set it free. Isolation is not a curse. It's a calling. It's the universe pulling you aside, away from the noise, away from the distractions, to have a brutally honest conversation with your soul. It's asking you, who are you when no one's watching? What do you believe in when there's no one to cheer for you? What do you stand for when standing alone is the only option? These aren't comfortable questions. They're not easy answers, but they are the foundation of real power. Because when you emerge from isolation, when you've wrestled with your fears, when you've faced your doubts, when you've stared into that mirror and didn't flinch, you come back stronger. Not fake strong, not look at me strong, silent strong, unshakable strong. The kind of strength that doesn't need to be seen to be real. The kind that can stand alone without apology. The kind that doesn't collapse the moment applause fades. So next time life pulls you into isolation, into the quiet, into the stillness, into the parts of yourself that you've been avoiding, don't see it as punishment. See it as preparation. See it as a sacred space where your real self can finally surface. See it as the furnace where your future is forged. Because the strongest, most unstoppable versions of ourselves aren't born when we're surrounded by crowds. They're born when we stand alone in the wilderness and choose to keep walking anyway, building unshakable strength. Without friends to rely on, without a cheering section to lift you up when you stumble, something incredible happens. You are forced to become your own savior. At first, it feels cruel. It feels like abandonment. It feels like the universe has forgotten you. But hidden underneath that loneliness is a gift most people will never receive. You become the one who picks yourself up when you fall. You become the shoulder you cry on, the hand that pulls you back to your feet, the voice that whispers, keep going, even when nobody else can hear it. You become your own fire in the freezing darkness, your own anchor in the storm, your own light when everything around you turns dim. In the absence of a crowd, you learn to be self-contained. You stop depending on borrowed strength. You stop outsourcing your worth to people who could never truly understand your battles. You learn what it means to stand firm on your own 2 feet, to trust your own instincts, to respect your own journey without needing an audience. The silence teaches you things that applause never could. It forces you to meet yourself at your weakest and love yourself anyway. It forces you to keep moving forward, even when no one is watching, even when no one is clapping, even when no one is offering a hand. And in that brutal, beautiful process, you build a kind of self-respect that no one can take away from you. You stop bending for acceptance. You stop shrinking for approval. You stop waiting for permission to be proud of who you are. Self-driven, self-sustained, self-respecting. That's what you become when the world falls silent. You realize that validation, that desperate hunger for someone to tell you that you're good enough was always a trap. It was always an illusion. Your worth was never supposed to be a group project. It was never meant to be something fragile enough to be handed to you, only to be taken away the moment someone changed their mind. It was never supposed to be voted on by a crowd that doesn't even know who you truly are. Your worth was set the day you were born. It was written into you, unbreakable, undeniable, untouched by the opinions of others. Most people spend their lives trying to patch up their insecurities with outside approval. They chase likes, praise, and shallow friendships, hoping the noise will fill the void inside, but it never does. Because real strength, real confidence, real peace, it can't be given to you. It has to be built from within. It has to be earned in the lonely hours, in the private battles, in the moments when quitting would be easy, but you choose not to. You choose to fight for yourself, not because anyone's watching, not because anyone's rewarding you, but because you finally decided that you are worth fighting for. And when that shift happens, when you no longer need anyone's permission to feel proud, when you no longer seek applause to feel alive, when you no longer crave the nods and smiles and handshakes, you become unstoppable. You walk into rooms differently. You make decisions differently. You move through life with a quiet power that can't be faked and can't be shaken. People will feel it. They won't always understand it, but they'll feel it. Because strength built in solitude leaves a mark that the world can't ignore. So if you find yourself alone, building yourself back up from nothing, don't resent it. Embrace it, lean into it. Because while others are busy chasing approval, you're busy building something they can never take away: unshakable strength. And one day, when the noise returns, when the crowd gathers again, when the invitations start rolling back in, you won't need any of it to stand tall. You'll already know who you are. And that kind of strength, that's forever. Choosing depth over company. Many women surround themselves with dozens of friends, weaving social circles so wide and busy that from the outside, it looks like they are deeply loved, fully supported, and endlessly connected. But appearances lie. Because when real storms come, when life cracks open with loss, betrayal, heartbreak, or failure, they find themselves utterly alone. Those dozens of friends are nowhere to be found. The phone that once buzzed with endless messages falls silent. The invitations dry up. The smiles fade, and what remains is the hollow echo of relationships built on convenience, not commitment. Shallow friendships feel good in the warmth of easy seasons. They give the illusion of belonging, of being seen, of being valued. But seasons change, and when winter comes, when life demands something real, something enduring, shallow roots cannot weather the storm. True companionship is different. True connection is rare. It doesn't come from desperation, from trying to fill the empty spaces inside with noise and attention. It comes from fullness, from wholeness, from a place so rooted in self-respect, so anchored in self-worth, that you no longer cling to people out of fear of being alone. When you are full within yourself, when you have built a life, a mindset, and a heart that doesn't collapse when left standing alone, you start to attract differently. You stop drawing in those who are only looking to take. You stop entertaining those who only come to drain your energy. You start radiating a different kind of strength, a quiet power that repels the shallow and invites the real. You begin to meet people who see you, truly see you, not as an accessory to their life, not as a convenience or a stepping stone, but as a warrior standing on her own ground. They see the battles you've fought, the storms you've survived, the scars you wear without apology. And they don't flinch, they don't run. They don't diminish you to make themselves more comfortable. They recognize your strength because they have walked their own fires too. They know what it costs to stand unbroken. They know how rare realness is in a world obsessed with appearances. Choosing depth over company is not about rejecting people. It's about rejecting anything that threatens to make you small again. It's about refusing to settle for half-hearted friendships, performative connections, and empty conversations that leave your soul starving. It's about realizing that your time, your energy, your spirit are sacred, and not everyone deserves access to them. It's about honoring yourself enough to wait for the kind of friendships, the kind of relationships that don't require you to water yourself down just to be loved. And yes, the road to depth is lonelier at first. You will have seasons where you walk mostly alone. You will have nights when you wonder if real connection is even possible in a world that praises the shallow. But stay the course. Trust the process. Because what you're building, the depth you're carving into your life, will one day become the very thing that draws in souls who match your spirit. Souls who don't want to use you. Souls who don't want to fix you. Souls who simply want to walk beside you as equals, as warriors, as reflections of the same fire. The truth is, it's better to walk alone than to dance with people who don't even see the real you. Better to build a life that feels rich and whole in solitude than to waste your energy propping up relationships that would collapse the moment life gets hard. Choosing depth over company isn't about isolation. It's about elevation. It's about rising into a version of yourself so true, so powerful, so full that the right people can't help but find you. And when they do, you won't need to cling. You won't need to chase. You won't need to prove your worth. They'll see it, because it was never hidden. It was simply waiting for someone strong enough to recognize it, facing the temptation to settle. There will be days when loneliness feels like a heavy cloak you can't shrug off. Days when it clings to your skin, seeps into your bones, and makes every hour feel longer, colder, heavier. There will be nights when the silence around you feels too loud to bear, when the emptiness in the room echoes every doubt you've ever tried to bury. In those moments, it becomes tempting to reach for anything, anyone, just to feel less alone. You will want to lower your standards, to make compromises you swore you'd never make, to invite people into your life who don't deserve to sit at your table. You will tell yourself that something is better than nothing, that a warm body, even if it brings a cold spirit, is better than the ache of solitude. But resist. Fight that impulse with everything you have. Because loneliness is temporary, settling is forever. Accepting less than you deserve just to quiet the discomfort of the moment will cost you more than you realize. It will chip away at your spirit piece by piece. It will erode your self-respect in silent ways, in small concessions that seem harmless at first, but over time leave you wondering how you became a stranger to yourself. Settling for shallow connections might soothe the surface-level sting of loneliness, but it deepens a much greater wound, the wound of betraying your own soul. Every time you accept less than your heart knows it deserves, you teach yourself that your needs, your values, your dreams are negotiable. And once you start negotiating your worth, it becomes harder and harder to reclaim it. Loneliness, no matter how painful, is a season. It comes and goes like weather. But building a life with people who don't truly see you, who don't truly value you, who drain your energy and dull your light, that's a trap with consequences that linger. It's far easier to endure a lonely night than to untangle yourself from a life stitched together with compromises you never wanted to make. The pain of temporary loneliness is a test, a proving ground. It asks you, will you hold the line? Will you stay true to what you know you deserve, even when it hurts? Will you trust that something better is coming, even when everything inside you is screaming to settle for what's easy? Keep your standards high, not out of pride, not out of stubbornness, but out of a deep, unshakable respect for the life you are building. Keep your spirit intact, protect it like the priceless thing it is, because you are not here to collect people like trophies to fill an empty shelf. You are not here to stuff your life with hollow company just to silence your fears. You are here to build something real, something lasting, something that resonates with your soul on a level that cannot be faked, cannot be rushed, cannot be forced. Real connection takes time. Real companionship requires patience. It demands that you walk through the wilderness of solitude without folding, without losing yourself along the way. It asks you to believe stubbornly, fiercely, that you are worthy of the kind of love, the kind of friendships, the kind of life that don't require you to shrink or settle. So when the temptation to settle comes knocking, and it will meet it with strength, meet it with the memory of every time you compromised and regretted it. Meet it with the vision of the life you are building, the life that's still ahead of you, waiting for you to refuse anything less. Let loneliness sharpen you, not soften you. Let it clarify what you want, not confuse it. Because the person who holds the line in the lonely seasons is the person who gets to live a life overflowing with meaning later. A life where every relationship is built on truth, not fear. Where every connection is a reflection of the respect you first gave yourself. And that life, the one you're holding out for, is worth every lonely night it takes to build it. The transformation you can't fake. You can't fake self-respect. You can't fake inner peace. You can't fake strength. No matter how carefully someone tries to craft an image, no matter how polished their words or curated their life, looks from the outside, real recognizes real. Either you've walked through the fire or you haven't. Either you've sat alone with your fears, looked them dead in the eye, and decided you would not be broken, or you've buried them under noise, distractions, and cheap applause. There's no shortcut, no hack, no pretending your way into it. The kind of transformation that makes people stop and feel your presence before you even say a word. It only comes from the battles you fight when no one else is watching. This loneliness you feel, this ache in your chest, this silence that sometimes feels like it could swallow you whole, it's not a punishment. It's a sacred forge. A place where the false parts of you are burned away and what's real is strengthened. Every day you stand in it and refuse to bow, refuse to run back to the familiar, refuse to settle for shallow, refuse to numb yourself with noise. You are reforging yourself into something rare, something powerful, something undeniable. You are becoming the kind of person who doesn't just survive storms, you become the storm. You become a force that cannot be ignored because your strength was not borrowed. It was built, hammered into existence by every lonely night, every tear you wiped alone, every dream you kept alive even when no one else believed in it. Most people will never understand what that kind of transformation costs. They will see the confidence, the peace, the silent power you carry, and they'll assume it was always there. They won't see the nights you fought battles in your mind. They won't see the moments you almost gave up but chose not to. They won't see the hours spent wrestling with doubt, fear, and the crushing weight of wondering if it was all worth it. But you'll know. You'll know exactly what it took, and that knowing, that deep, unshakable knowing, will be the foundation of a life that no one can take from you.
Our planet is a treasure
trove of natural wonders. The fire you're standing in now is not designed to destroy you. It's designed to reveal you, to strip away the layers of fear, insecurity, and falsehood that were never truly you to begin with.
They invite us to reconnect with the Earth's tranquil embrace.
That were built for the approval of others, and forging a version of you that stands on
each one holds a unique charm waiting to be discovered. Join us as we journey to some of nature's best-kept secrets. Prepare to be captivated by their beauty and find solace in their tranquility.
So alive that
the Scottish Highlands stand as a testament to
alone
nature's
and
raw
feel
beauty.
like you belong
Rugged
there without
mountains
needing
pierce the
anyone's
sky, their
permission.
slopes painted in
So
vibrant
don't rush
greens
the
and
process.
browns.
Don't
Crystal
numb
clear
the
locks
discomfort.
reflect the
Don't run from the
ever-changing sky,
silence.
their depths
Stay in the
holding
forge.
secrets untold.
Stand in the fire.
The air is
Let it do its
alive with
work.
the sound of the
Because
wind
every
whispering
second
through
you
the
endure,
heather.
every
Ancient
moment you choose
castles
not to
stand
collapse,
guard.
every day you
Silent
refuse to settle,
witnesses to
you are
centuries
becoming
of history.
someone
A
unstoppable,
walk through the
someone
highlands is a
unforgettable,
journey into a
someone who
world
doesn't just
untouched
inspire
by
others, you
time.
awaken something
Ireland,
inside them
the
they
Emerald
forgot
Isle,
they had.
truly lives up to
And
its
one
name.
day, not by
Rolling
accident,
green hills
not
stretch
by
as
luck,
far as the
but
eye
by
can
the
see,
quiet,
dotted
brutal,
with sheep
beautiful
and ancient
world,
stone
you did
walls.
alone, you will
The
look
air
at your
is
life
fresh
and
clean,
realize you
carrying the
didn't
scent
just
of
survive your
wildflowers and
loneliness.
damp earth.
You transformed
Along the
because
rugged
of it.
coastline,
The invisible
dramatic
growth.
cliffs plunge
The most
into the
important
crashing
changes
waves.
happen in
Hidden
silence.
coves
They
offer
happen when
glimpses of
nobody is
secluded
watching.
beaches, their
Nobody
sands
claps for the
washed by
woman
the
reading
turquoise
late into
waters
the
of
night,
Atlantic.
sacrificing
Ireland's
sleep to
beauty is
expand her
both
mind,
wild
while the
and
rest of the
serene,
world
a
numbs itself
captivating
with
blend that
distractions.
soothes the
Nobody
soul.
hands out awards to the
Japanese
woman who
gardens
chooses
are
discipline over
masterpieces of
comfort,
design,
who
carefully
turns down
crafted to
fleeting
inspire
pleasures to
peace and
invest in something
contemplation.
lasting.
Each
Nobody
element,
applauds the
from
woman
the
who quietly
meticulously raked
rewrites the
gravel to
script
the
running
precisely
through her
pruned
mind,
bonsai
teaching herself
trees,
to think
has a
clearer,
purpose
to
and a
believe
meaning.
stronger, to
Waterfalls
unlearn the
cascade
fears and
into
doubts
tranquil
that once
ponds,
ruled her
their
life.
gentle
There are
ripples
no
mirroring
standing
the
ovations
movement
for
of the
healing your
clouds
own
above.
wounds without turning
Stone
your pain
lanterns
into a
cast
performance.
soft light,
There are no medals for the
illuminating
ones who
pathways
sit
that
alone
wind
in the
through
quiet,
meticulously
face their
arranged
shadows
foliage.
head on, and
In
choose
this
to become
symphony of
better instead of
serenity,
bitter.
the stresses of the
Nobody
outside
sees the
world
woman who
fade
wakes
away.
up at 5 a.m.
Section 5,
before the sun even
where time
rises, to
stands
meditate,
still.
to pray,
The
to
Amazon
strengthen her
rainforest.
spirit before the
The
world
Amazon
even
rainforest,
stirs.
often referred
No
to
one
as the
documents
lungs of
the
the
silent
earth, is a
battles.
vast
She fights the
and
inner wars
mysterious
against
expanse
self-doubt,
that stretches
the slow,
across
gritty
9 countries
rebuilding
in
of her
South
confidence
America.
after
It
life
is a
tried to
place where the
shatter it.
modern world
No one
feels
sees
like
the tiny,
a distant
daily
memory,
choices she makes,
and nature
to speak
reigns
kindly to
supreme.
herself instead of harshly,
The Amazon
pursue
rainforest
growth
is a
instead of
vibrant
resentment,
tapestry of
to reach
life
for faith
teeming with
instead of fear.
biodiversity.
These
It is home
victories
to an
don't
estimated
trend. They don't fill
390
highlight
billion
reels.
individual
They don't draw
trees
applause,
representing around
but they are the victories
16,000
that matter
species.
most. Because what's
This
built in
incredible
silence
diversity of
becomes
plant life supports
unshakable
an
in
equally
noise.
astonishing array
The woman
of
who
animal
grows in the
species,
unseen
from the
hours becomes
smallest
the woman who
insects to the
cannot be
largest
moved
predators.
when life tests her.
Towering
She doesn't
trees
crumble
form
at
a dense
criticism because
canopy,
she no
filtering
longer
the
needs the
sunlight and
world's
creating a
approval to
world
validate
of
her
dappled
existence.
shade.
She doesn't
These
lose herself
trees,
in
some of
chaos
which can
because
reach
she has
heights of
already
over
anchored
200
herself in
feet, are the
discipline.
giants
She
of
doesn't
the
chase
forest,
after hollow
providing
relationships
shelter
or empty
and sustenance
distractions
to
because
countless
she
forms
knows
of
the
life.
richness that
The
comes from
canopy is a
standing whole
complex and
and strong
dynamic
on her own.
ecosystem in its
She
own
has
right,
fought too
with
many
many
battles in the
species
dark
spending
to
their
ever be
entire
scared by
lives
the
high
shadows
above the
again.
forest floor.
Most people won't
The air is
understand how
thick
she
with
got there.
humidity,
They'll assume she
alive
was
with the
just
sound of
lucky,
exotic
that
birds
confidence
and buzzing
came naturally
insects.
to her, that her
The
peace was
Amazon is
handed
home
to
to
her.
over
They won't see the
1,300
countless
species of
mornings she
birds,
wanted to quit
each
but
adding
didn't.
its unique song
The
to
night
the
she
symphony of
cried
the
but
jungle.
got back up.
Insects,
The moment she
too, are
doubted
abundant,
everything
with an
but chose to
estimated
believe
2.5
anyway.
million species
The world
calling
doesn't
the rainforest
celebrate
home.
invisible
This
growth, but it
cacophony of
always
life is
reveals
a
it.
testament
Over
to the
time, the
incredible
woman who trained in
biodiversity
silence
of the
begins to
Amazon.
move differently,
The Amazon
speak
River, a
differently,
lifeline for
carry
countless
herself
species,
differently,
winds its
and
way
people
through the
notice
heart
even
of the
if they can't
rainforest.
explain why.
Stretching over
Those
4,000
silent
miles, it is the
victories are
second
what separate
longest
you
river
from the
in the
rest.
world and
They
carries more
forge a
water
strength
than
that
any
doesn't
other
need to
river.
be announced.
The river
A
and
peace
its many
that doesn't need to
tributaries
be
are vital
explained.
to the
A
ecosystem,
power that
providing
doesn't
water,
demand recognition
transportation,
to
and
exist.
habitat for a
When you
myriad
build
of
yourself
species.
quietly,
Indigenous
humbly,
communities
faithfully,
live
you
in
create a
harmony with
foundation
nature,
that cannot
their
be shaken by
traditions
opinions,
intricately woven into the
rejection,
fabric of the
failure, or
forest.
loss.
These
So when your
communities have
growth feels
thrived in the
unseen,
Amazon
when your
for
progress
thousands of
feels
years,
invisible,
relying on the
when your
forest
efforts
for
feel like
food,
they're going
medicine,
unnoticed,
and
remember,
shelter.
The work you do
Their
in the
deep
dark
knowledge
is what
of the
prepares you
rainforest
to
and
shine
its
in the light.
resources is a
The
testament
invisible
to their
growth isn't
resilience
wasted.
and
It's
adaptability.
sacred. It's
A
setting you
journey into
apart.
the Amazon
It's
is a
building
journey
something
into a
inside
world
you that noise
untouched by
could
the
never
modern
create.
world.
And
A
one
place
day,
where
without
time
trying,
seems to
without
stand
forcing,
still.
without
It
needing
is a
to
place
announce
of
it,
wonder
you'll
and
walk into
discovery,
rooms with a
where the
presence so
natural world
undeniable
reveals
that
its
even the
secrets
loudest
to those who
voices will
venture
fall
into its
silent.
depths.
Because
The
real
Amazon
growth doesn't have
rainforest
to
is not
shout.
just a place,
It simply
it
speaks
is a
for
living,
itself.
breathing
Being too
entity
big
that
for small
continues to
minds,
captivate
some
and
will not
inspire
understand
all who
you.
experience
No matter
its
how
magic.
clearly you move,
Section
how
6,
deeply you
Tranquility
feel, or
in
how
turquoise,
purely
the
you live, they
Maldives.
won't get it.
Scattered like
Some will
jewels
say
across
you're
the
too
Indian
cold,
Ocean,
too
the
distant,
Maldives are
too
the epitome
serious.
of paradise.
They'll whisper that you've
Palm-fringed
changed, that you're
islands
different now,
rise from
that you're
crystal
not
clear
as
turquoise
fun as you
waters,
used to be.
their white
Let
sand
them.
beaches
Their
beckoning
judgment is
visitors
not
to
your
relax
business.
and unwind.
Their misunderstanding
Beneath
is
the
not
surface,
your
vibrant coral
responsibility.
reefs teem with
You were never
marine
meant
life,
to fit into
offering a
small frames
kaleidoscope of
built by
colours
small
for
minds.
snorkelers and divers
You were
to
never meant to
explore.
water
The
yourself
gentle
down
lapping
so
of the
others
waves
could feel
provides a
comfortable in
soothing
their
soundtrack,
mediocrity. You are
inviting
here to live a
visitors to let
life
go
that
of their
makes sense
worries
to your
and
soul,
embrace the
not one
tranquility
that
of
checks
island
off the
life.
shallow
Section
expectations
7,
of
the
others.
Dance of Light
As
and
you
Shadow
grow, as you
Redwood
climb,
National
as you
Park.
refine yourself
California's
through
Redwood
solitude and
National
strength,
Park is
you
home
will
to the
naturally
tallest trees
outgrow
on
certain
Earth.
circles.
These ancient
You will feel
giants
the
have
space
stood the
widen
test of
between
time,
you and people you
witnessing
once
centuries
called
of
friends.
history
You will
unfold
find
beneath
yourself
their
speaking
towering
less because
canopies.
your words now
The park
carry more
itself
weight,
is a
more
sanctuary,
depth,
preserving
more
not
truth,
just the trees,
and not
but an
everyone can
entire
handle that.
ecosystem that
You will
thrives
notice
in
how
their
surface
shadow.
conversations
Giant
exhaust you,
redwoods,
how
some over
empty
2,000
validation no
years
longer
old,
excites
reach
you,
for the sky,
how
their
fitting in
massive
feels more
trunks
like
disappearing
suffocating
into
than
the canopy
belonging.
above.
That's not
These
arrogance,
trees have survived
that's
through
evolution.
countless seasons,
And not everyone is
fires
meant
and
to come with
storms,
you.
standing
Small
resilient
minds will
and strong.
misinterpret your
Their bark,
seriousness
thick
as
and
bitterness.
fibrous,
They
protects
will
them from the
confuse your
elements,
focus for
allowing them
arrogance.
to grow to
They
such
will mistake
incredible
your
heights.
unwillingness to settle
Walking
for
amongst these
selfishness.
ancient
But
giants
you know
is a
the
humbling
truth.
experience.
You know how many
The
silent
sheer
battles you
size
fought
and
just to
age of the
become this
redwoods
version
make
of
one feel
yourself.
small
You know
and
the price you paid
insignificant
to
in
build a
comparison.
mind that doesn't
As
collapse
you
at
wander
the
through
first
the
sign of
forest, the
loneliness.
sounds of modern
You know
life
the
fade
hours
away,
spent in
replaced by
isolation,
the rustling
choosing
of
discipline
leaves and
over
the occasional
distraction,
call of a
truth
bird.
over comfort.
Sunlight
You don't owe
filters
anyone
through
an
the leaves,
explanation for the strength you
creating a
had to forge
mesmerizing
in private.
dance of light
Keep
and shadow.
walking. Keep
This
climbing.
interplay of light
Keep moving
and
with the
dark
same
adds a
steady,
magical
grounded steps
quality to
that
the
got you
forest,
this
making it
far.
feel like a scene
Not
from a
everyone
fairy tale.
deserves a front row seat
light
to your
shifts
journey.
and changes
Not
as the
everyone
day
is qualified
progresses,
to have access
casting
to the next
different
chapters of your
patterns
life.
and highlighting different
Access to
aspects
you
of the
should be
forest.
earned by
The
character,
air is
not
cool,
familiarity.
damp, carrying the
Loyalty
scent
to
of
your
pine
old self
needles
is not a
and
good
damp
enough
earth.
reason to
This
stay
unique
tethered to people who
aroma is a
refuse to
blend of
grow.
the forest's
You are allowed
natural
to
elements,
outgrow those
creating
who
an
choose to
atmosphere
stay
that is both
small.
refreshing
And when they
invigorating.
criticize, when they
The
gossip,
mist
when
that
they
often
say
hangs
you've
in the
changed,
air
smile.
adds to the sense
Let
of
them talk.
mystery and wonder,
Let them
making each
misunderstand.
visit to the park
Let them
a
stay
unique
stuck in the
experience.
places you refuse
In the
to die
presence
in.
of these
Because
majestic
while they are
trees,
busy
one
discussing
cannot
your
help but
life,
feel a
you are
sense
busy
of
building
awe
it.
and wonder.
While they
The
cling to old
redwoods
versions
inspire
of
a
you,
deep
you are
respect for
stepping into
nature
new
and its
dimensions they
ability to
can't even
endure and
imagine.
thrive.
You
Whether
are
you're
not
a
cold, you
seasoned
are clear.
hiker or a
You are
first-time
not distant,
visitor,
you are
the
discerning.
experience
You are
of
not
standing
too
among
serious,
these
you are too
giants
committed
is
to
one that
waste your
stays
energy
with
on
you
what
long
doesn't
after
serve
you've
your
left the
purpose.
park.
Big dreams
Section
require
8.
a big spirit,
Finding peace
and
in
big
open
spirits will
spaces.
always feel
The
too
Great
heavy for
Plains.
small minds.
The Great Plains
So
of North
protect your
America
energy,
are a vast
guard
expanse
your
of
peace,
open grassland,
and never
stretching for
apologize for
miles
growing
in
in
every
a direction that
The
demands
wind
more
sweeps
from you,
across the prairie,
even if it means
creating
growing alone
waves
for a
of golden
season.
grass
You're
that
not
ripple
here to
like
be
an
understood
ocean.
by everyone.
Herds of
You're here
bison
to live a
graze
life that
peacefully,
only a
their
rare few
silhouettes
will even
outlined against
recognize,
the endless sky.
and even fewer
The
will
simplicity
ever
and
reach.
vastness of the
And that's
landscape
exactly
evoke
how
a
it should
sense
be.
of freedom and
The
peace.
power of walking
In the
alone.
quiet solitude
There is a
of the
kind of
Great
power
Plains,
that comes
one can
from knowing
truly
you can
connect
walk
with the
alone.
rhythm of
A
nature.
quiet, invisible
Section 9.
power that
A world of
doesn't
wonder
announce
awaits.
itself, doesn't
Our
seek
planet is
approval,
filled with hidden
doesn't
green
need a stage to
paradises,
feel
each one a
real. It
testament to
doesn't
the
mean you
incredible
always will
diversity
walk
and
alone.
beauty of our
It doesn't mean you reject people or relationships
often
or
untouched by
connection.
human hands,
It simply
offer a
means you are not
sanctuary
afraid
for
of
countless
solitude.
species of
It
flora
means
and
that
fauna.
when the
They
crowds
are the
thin,
lungs
when the friends
of our
fade,
planet,
when
the
the path
sources of our
narrows to
rivers,
the
and
point
the
where only
keepers
your
of
footsteps
ancient
echo back
secrets.
at you,
Each
don't
of these
crumble.
paradises
You don't
offers a
panic.
unique glimpse
You
into the
don't
beauty
desperately
and
reach out
tranquility
for
of
any
the
hand
natural
just to
world.
feel less alone.
Imagine standing
You
in a
keep
serene
walking.
forest where the
You
only
trust
sounds
your
are the
own
rustling
legs.
of leaves
You trust your own
and the
heart.
distant call
You
of a
trust the
bird.
life you're building,
Or picture
even when
yourself
no one
by a
else can
crystal
see it
clear
yet.
lake.
When you
Its
can walk
surface
alone,
so still
it changes
mirrors the
everything.
sky above.
It means that when you
From the
choose to
rugged
walk
mountains
beside
of
someone, whether in
Scotland, where
friendship, in
ancient
partnership,
peaks rise
in love, it's from a
majestically
place of
against the
strength,
sky,
not
to the
fear.
rolling
You are
hills
not
and
clinging
deep
because
valleys
you're
that tell
terrified of
stories
being
of
alone.
geological time,
You are not
to the
begging because you
tranquil
think you need
islands of
someone
the
else to
Maldives,
complete you.
where
You are
turquoise
not shrinking
waters lap
yourself
gently
just to
against
fit into
white
a life
sandy
that doesn't
shores,
align with
and
who you are.
vibrant coral
You are
reefs.
choosing freely,
The forest
powerfully,
floor is dark
consciously.
and mysterious.
You are saying,
Beneath the
I can
dense
stand on
canopy,
my
the
own.
forest floor is
I
a
am
world
whole
of
on my
shadows
own.
and secrets.
But I choose to
Here,
share this
the
path
undergrowth
with
is
you
thick
because
and
I want to,
tangled,
not because
providing
I
a
have
home
to.
for countless
And that
insects,
difference
reptiles,
changes
and
the
small
entire
mammals.
dynamic.
It is a place where the cycle of life and death plays out in a delicate
from desperation
balance.
to freedom.
The Amazon is
There's
a place
kind
of
of peace
wonder.
that settles over you once you realize you don't need anyone to validate your steps. You don't need constant reassurance to trust your direction. You don't need to be carried when the road gets rough, because you've already learned how to carry yourself through darker valleys than this. You stop chasing people who don't value you. You stop bending to stay invited. You stop molding yourself into versions that others find easier to digest. Instead, you become rooted deeply, unshakably in who you are, in what you believe, and in where you're going. You start recognizing that anyone who walks beside you is a blessing, not a necessity, a choice, not a crutch. And the beautiful thing about walking alone is that it sharpens your vision. It clears the fog of distraction. It tunes your heart to a frequency that cannot be faked. You begin to see clearly who deserves to be in your life, and who was only there to fill a void you no longer have. You no longer accept half-hearted efforts.
Bali is an
you no
island.
longer tolerate
It is in
lukewarm
Indonesia.
loyalty.
The rice
You no
terraces
longer
are
waste
amazing.
your
They
energy
are
trying
carved
to
into the
convince people
hillsides.
of your worth.
The terraces are
You've
green.
already convinced the
Water
only
flows
person who
between them.
matters.
Farmers
yourself.
work hard in the fields.
Walking alone
They grow
builds
rice to
something
feed their
inside you
families.
that cannot
The
be
rice
taught,
terraces are
only
beautiful.
earned.
They
A
show how
resilience,
humans
a
and nature
gravity,
can work together.
a depth.
These terraces
People
are
can
special.
feel it
They are
without
part
you
of
even
Bali's
having
culture.
to say a word.
Section 7.
They feel
The
the
Canadian
steadiness
Rockies,
when you
majesty in
speak.
green.
They feel
The
the
Canadian
certainty
Rockies
when you
are
move.
mountains.
They feel the
They are
freedom in the
tall
way
and
you love
majestic.
freely, without
Forests
fear,
cover the
without
lower
chains.
slopes. They are
Because
a deep
nothing is
green
more
color.
attractive,
The air
nothing
is
is
clear
more
and fresh.
magnetic
Rivers
than a
flow
soul
through the
that is
valleys.
whole all by itself.
Waterfalls cascade
So
down
if you
the
find yourself
mountainsides.
walking
The scenery is
alone right now,
breathtaking.
keep going.
The Canadian Rockies
If you
are
find
wild.
yourself in
Bears and
seasons
wolves
where no
live
one
here.
seems to
Eagles
understand
soar
your
overhead.
journey,
These
trust it
mountains
even
are
more.
powerful.
The
They
world
remind
trains
us of
us to
nature's
fear
grandeur.
solitude, to fear
Section
the empty
8.
spaces.
Finding serenity
But the
in
empty
green
spaces are
spaces.
where you find
Green
the parts of
spaces are
yourself that are
important.
strongest,
They offer a
most
sanctuary
resilient,
from the
most
hustle and
beautifully
bustle of
unbreakable.
daily life,
And when
providing
the
a
time comes
place
to
where
walk
we can
with someone else
reconnect
again,
with nature
you won't
and
do it out of
ourselves.
need.
In
You do
today's
it out of
fast-paced
abundance,
world, finding
out of
moments of
strength,
tranquility
out
is
of a love
essential
that
for our
doesn't
men
ask for
peaceful. The
completion,
vibrant
only
colors of
companionship.
flowers, the gentle
Because the
rustling
ones
of
who have
leaves,
mastered
and the
walking
soothing
alone
sounds of
are the
nature
ones who
all
walk
contribute
together,
to a sense of peace
stronger.
and serenity.
Your legacy
These natural
begins
elements
now.
work together
Every
to
day
create
you
an
walk alone with
environment that
dignity.
promotes
You are building a
relaxation and mind.
legacy,
The melodious
even if it
tunes
feels
of birds
invisible
can
right
be
now.
incredibly
Every
uplifting.
time you choose self-respect over
Birdwatching in a
easy
park allows us
validation,
to
every time you
appreciate
honor
the
your soul's
diversity
call
of
over the
wildlife
noise of the
and
world,
fosters a
every
deeper
time you choose
connection with the
solitude over
natural
shallow
world.
company,
These
you
moments
are
of
leaving
connection can be
footprints.
profoundly healing.
Footprints that
We
don't
can feel
just
the
mark
wind
where
on
you've
our
been
faces,
daylight, the way
the
for
gentle
those who will
breeze
come
that
after you.
caresses our skin
You
as
are
we
showing
stand in a
future
meadow or walk
generations
through
what
a
it looks
park
like to
is
stand
a
tall
reminder
without
of the
needing a
simple
crowd
pleasures
to
in
lean
life.
on.
The
You are
rustling of
teaching
leaves
without
in the wind
speaking,
creates
leading
a
without
natural
demanding,
symphony that
inspiring
soothes
without
our
performing.
souls. We can
You are
breathe in the
proving,
fresh air.
quietly but
The crisp,
undeniably,
clean
that
air
a
of
woman's
green
value
spaces
is not measured by the
invigorating,
number of people she
taking
can
a deep
gather
breath
around
in a
her,
forest
but
or
by
a
the
mountain
depth,
setting
the discipline,
fills our
the
lungs with
unshakable
oxygen
strength
and
she builds
revitalizes
within
our
herself.
bodies.
And
This
make no
fresh air
mistake,
is
the
a
world
stark
watches,
contrast to the
even
often
when it
polluted
pretends
air
not
of
to.
urban environments.
The young girl who
Parks
feels
and
out of
gardens
place
are
because she
important.
refuses
They
to
serve as
water
green
herself
oases in the
down.
midst
She's
of
watching
concrete
you.
jungles.
The woman who's
These
been told
spaces
she's
provide
too
a
much,
much-needed
too
escape
serious,
from the
too
urban
ambitious.
chaos and offer
She's
a place
watching
for
you.
people to unwind
The souls
and
who are
recharge.
quietly aching for
Well-maintained
permission to live
gardens and
fully, to
parks
stand
enhance the
firmly,
beauty of our
to walk
cities and
bravely
improve
without
the quality
apology.
of life
They are
for
all
residents.
watching.
They bring
They may
nature
not
into
say
our
it out
cities.
loud,
Urban
but your
parks
courage
and
grants them
gardens
silent
integrate
permission
nature
to
into our
rise.
daily lives,
Your example
making it
whispers to
accessible
them
to
that it's
everyone.
not only
These
possible
green
to live
spaces are
without shrinking,
essential
it's
for fostering
necessary.
a sense of
Stay
community
strong,
and encouraging
stay
outdoor
silent,
activities.
stay
They
sacred.
remind us of the
In a
impressive.
world that
Green
rewards
fields
loud
are precious.
mediocrity,
We must
your
protect
quiet
them.
excellence
These
is
green
an act of
expanses are
rebellion.
not just beautiful
In
to
a
look
culture
at,
that
they are vital
glorifies
for our
fitting in,
survival.
your refusal
They
to
act
bend
as the
is
lungs of our
revolutionary.
planet,
Choosing
absorbing
your
carbon
soul over your
dioxide and
popularity,
releasing
your
oxygen.
growth over
Without
your comfort,
them, the air
your
we
standards
breathe would
over
be
your
polluted
loneliness,
and
these are
unhealthy.
not small decisions.
The lush meadows and
They are the
expansive
building blocks of an
grasslands are also
unshakable
crucial
legacy,
for maintaining the
one
balance
that will
of our
outlive the
ecosystems.
trends, the gossip,
They provide
the fleeting
habitats for
opinions of
countless
those
species
too
of
afraid
plants
to
and
walk
animals,
their
many
own
of which
path.
are endangered
Because a
and
woman
rely
who
on these
masters
areas for their
solitude is a
survival.
woman who masters
They are home
everything.
to many
She is
creatures,
untouchable
from
in
the
her
tiniest
peace.
insects
She is
to the largest
unstoppable in her
mammals.
pursuit.
These green
She is
paradises
unmatched in her
support a diverse
authenticity.
range of life
She doesn't
forms.
walk into
Birds
rooms hoping
build
to be
their
chosen, she walks in already chosen by herself. She doesn't shrink to be palatable, she stands in her full magnitude, whether it intimidates others or not. She doesn't cling to connections out of fear, she builds them from overflow, from truth, from wholeness. Every strong boundary you set, every high standard you maintain, every lonely night you endure with grace instead of desperation, they are not just about you. They are stitches in a much larger tapestry. They are threads in a story that says, a woman's worth was never meant to be negotiated. A woman's soul was never meant to be bartered for belonging. A woman's power was never supposed to be dependent on anyone's
However,
permission.
pollution from industrial
Your legacy is not something you stumble into one day. It's something you are shaping right now with every choice to rise instead of fold, to walk instead of cling, to stand instead of beg. Keep going. Because one day, when another woman faces her own wilderness and feels like she can't keep walking, she'll find your footprints. And because of you, she will.